Hello, this is John Schinnerer, award-winning author and founder of Guide to Self. Great to see you today for a step-by-step guide to happiness, the foundation. And I like to start off things with a little bit of humor because, number one, it opens you up to new information, and number two, it helps you to laugh and get rid of the negative effects of negative emotions. So for those of you without a sense of humor, this is supposed to be funny. So if you're offended by this, this isn't the presentation for you. All right, top 7 ways to tell when you are truly crazy. Number 1, you start out each morning with a 30-minute jog around the bathroom. Number 2, you write to your mother in Denmark every week, even though she sends you mail from Ohio asking you why you never write. Number 3, you wear your boxers on your head because you heard it will ward off evil alien spirits. Number 4, you have meaningful conversations with your toaster. And yes, I actually met this lady one time when I was in my 20s up at Humboldt County's lumberjack days. It was an interesting conversation between me, myself, well, I should say me, her, and her toaster. Number 5, you put tennis balls in the microwave to see if they'll hatch. Number 6, your dentist asks you why each one of your teeth has your name etched on it, and you say it's for security reasons. And number 7, you make low-quality videos, well, perhaps like this one, to share with the world and give your best content away for free. Top signs you are truly crazy. All right, so one of the things that I've done, a number of things, I've put together a framework for a successful, thriving, happy life at the request of a businessman about 5 years ago. And so I looked at thousands of research studies and came up with this 6-part framework to coach people towards a happy, thriving life. So the first part of it is the acronym ASPIRE, where the A stands for accomplishment or act. In other words, we have to act, we have to take action if we want to have that feeling of accomplishment, that feeling of thriving, that feeling of happiness. So I know it seems obvious, but a lot of us are so taken aback by our own anxiety that we're paralyzed and we don't act, and yet we expect things to change in our life. The S is for significance or meaning. One of the biggest tips I can give you is that if you don't know what your meaning or purpose or significance is in this life, find out. I can help you and I'll be giving you tips along the way, but this truly gives you the passion and excitement that you need to bounce through life as a resilient individual. The P is physical. We're only given one physical body. In my opinion, we've got to take the best care of it that we can. So we want to watch what we eat, we want to work out, and the rule is you want to exercise 20 minutes a day, 5 days a week. And even if you can't do that much, start at 2 or 3 minutes a day and work your way up. You can start with a walk around the block. However, it's critical to take good care of your body because that's what gets everything going and gets your brain the fuel it needs, the oxygen and the glucose, so that you can make the most out of your life. The I in the ASPIRE acronym stands for intellectual. So basically it's empowering the rational thinking side of your mind, but more than that, it's not only becoming as smart as you can, it's learning how to identify and challenge those negative thoughts, those, I call them gremlins, that run through your head and chip away at your self-confidence and your belief in yourself. So part of it's getting rid of the negative thoughts, part of it is replacing those negative thoughts with more supportive, constructive thoughts. And I'll talk about all this a little bit more detail later. The R is for relational. So ideally you want to be surrounding yourself with positive, supportive, non-judgmental, optimistic people. And I know those people can be rather hard to find. In any case, you want to keep looking for them. And you want to be aware when you're surrounding yourself with people that drain energy from you, that take energy, whether it's from anger or sadness or anxiety or put downs or physical abuse. And you want to begin to slowly distance yourself from them depending on how negative and destructive they are. And then finally, my favorite, the one nearest and dearest to my heart, is the E for even-keeled emotions. It's basically equanimity or evenness of mind. And what I've found is that emotions are the most powerful things in our lives, whether or not we realize it. And so it's critical that we learn ways to turn down the volume on negative emotions, like fear, anger, sadness, and that we learn ways to turn up the volume on positive emotions. Emotions like awe, passion, love, curiosity, interest, pride, and more. So that's the Aspire framework for a successful, thriving life. All right, so how do I know that this framework works? Well, it's based on research, number one. So everything that I talk about is based on scientific evidence. Number two, I've been working with clients individually for about 5 years now and had fantastic results with clients that have seen multiple therapists, psychologists, athletes that want to get better at their sports, executives that are getting irritated at work, and their irritation is undermining their ability to lead. Or even executives that just aren't authentic emotionally. They're out of touch with who they are. So what they say and what they do and how they emote are three different things. And people pick up on that and sense it, and they don't want to follow. So let me give you one quick case study here. This young man, one of the best young men I know, was a friend of mine. Is now a friend of mine. Was a client some 4 or 5 years ago, and is an outstanding guitarist. And he had the potential in high school to play pro baseball. He could throw 95 miles an hour as a sophomore in high school. He threw a no-hitter against one of the best teams in the Valley, and we have some really good baseball talent around here. And he actually had a perfect game until he accidentally hit a batter, but that's another story. He had been heartbroken by a girlfriend at a young age, at I think 17, where his girlfriend hooked up with his best friend, and they went on to get married. And so that kind of soured his taste for people in general, but in particular girls. And he hated consciousness. So when he would wake up in the morning, he would groan and roll over and think to himself, oh my God, I've got 12 more hours before I can go back to sleep. Sleep was actually the best thing in his life. Because when he woke up, he would be filled with rage, despair, anxiety, and depression. And he had this other condition, which we figured out was chronic vomiting syndrome, and it involved abdominal migraines, where he would wake up about 1 out of every 3 days vomiting uncontrollably, and roughly 1 out of every 7 days he would vomit so much that he would end up in the ER. And they wouldn't believe him because he had a history of substance abuse problems. They thought he was there just to get drugs, and so they would keep him there for 6 hours, not giving him the medication he needed to make him feel better, and prevent him from throwing up further, and the downward negative spiral sort of continued unabated. His home life, he lived at home with his mom and dad. There was a lot of anger going on, a lot of yelling, a lot of negativity, which I think is pretty common. I think most of our anger comes out at home where we know it's safe to get angry, but that doesn't mean it's the best way to deal with it. And there are ways where you can, again, turn down the volume on that anger and turn up the volume on some more pleasant emotions. And he felt life deeply. He was emotionally sensitive. So he felt things very deeply. Very smart guy. And he was taking a lot of drugs and alcohol at the time. Many times when he came to see me, he might be stoned or on some other substance. And so we'd talk about that. And then he had depression and social anxiety. And the kicker was that he had 3 serious suicide attempts. Some of the most serious attempts I've dealt with in the past 12 years. And yet he lived through them.